Good deal. I know Nathan won't be joining us, but yeah, here's Joe.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was looking for November executive committee minutes.
Okay.
Do you need them?
Well, you have to approve them. I thought Nathan and I had communicated on them. I'll have to get those out to you after the fact.
Oh, okay.
That's
Let's
fine. We'll
just
just
say
table them.
I have mine here, I think. No, I don't.
I know you have the full board meeting
Maybe
minutes.
they're in with the. Yeah, no, that's true. I don't have the executive committee.
All right. Well, I think we'll forge ahead. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll table the approval of minutes until we get those, and we can consider those at our next executive committee meeting in May. Welcome, everybody. It's a snowy day here in the Shenandoah Valley as well. We got about 4 or 5 inches last night. So
Yep.
I'm working from home. I've given a couple of exams from home. So it's, the way it is now.
Business as usual.
That's right. Yeah, I guess the first thing we're going to start off with is just a bit of a report from me. We're going to hear tomorrow the nominations for our officers for the coming year from our nominating committee. I understand that Nathan has agreed to be nominated to serve as chair. Lisa will be nominated as vice chair. Jennifer, thank you for staying on as treasurer. And then our secretary will be Roberto, at least nominated. This, of course, is when we're going to be nominating, and then we won't be electing until May. We'll also take some nominations from the floor if there are any. And so,
All right.
does anybody have any questions about that? I actually have a question about it, but anybody? I'm wondering, Joe, do we need to take action on anything? I noticed that in the agenda for tomorrow, it said that it was an action item, but are we just hearing a report from the nominating committee?
No, it's
And
just
then,
it's just a report.
right.
According to the
And
bylaws.
only if there are nominations from the floor would there be actions required, like a second and so forth.
Correct.
Okay.
So generally, it's just a formality to announce the slate and then vote on it in May.
Right. I guess the next thing that I had listed on my things to report about were an update on the General Assembly. And we've been following closely the capital outlay budget. There was an earlier note about a subcommittee reporting out that our project was still in the priority 1 or category. And just recently, Joe, I don't know if you want to share with us, but we got word from, you want to go ahead and share on that, or do you want to wait until you're?
No, it's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the House apparently had moved $10 million into the slot that's designated for detailed planning projects. Just FYI, as of like last year, there was $18 million for 12 projects. I do believe the number of projects have been reduced since, though off the top of my head, and I was unable to find how many are currently in the queue. But it's small. It's lower number of projects, and of course, as you can see, a smaller amount of money, but that still bodes well. I reached out to a contact in Richmond who had confirmed that that money had been moved over and gave us a little advice on some folks to reach out to, should we choose to just try to get some further support. This, of course, would be money that would be made available for fiscal year 2022. So that would be July 1st. So if the Senate puts it in, they debate, and the governor signs the bill, then we can put out an RFP immediately. So we'll be prepared for that. So more to come.
Yeah.
Again, the Senate still has to vote on that.
Yeah, I think that's good news. We've been hearing all along
Yeah.
that the fiscal projections are a little bit better than they had first feared. So I'm hoping that continues and that the Senate feels the same way as the House did in putting this forward.
Yeah, and since we're on the topic, it also bodes well for our operating budget to remain level, and that
Right.
means we could, trying to jump too far ahead here, but that we could search for Dr. Beard's successor beginning in the fall.
Oh, good.
That's good. I didn't really have anything else to report. I just wanted to make sure we were ready tomorrow to recognize Barry. And I saw that you sent out the resolution language to the entire board. Joe and I worked this up, and of course, want to recognize Barry for his service post-mortem, and also to share with his family our appreciation for the work that he's done over the years. And I think there were some staff that were going to work on a slideshow to show some pictures of Barry. Is that right, Joe?
Zach has that put together. So basically, he'll have it on his computer, and if you would just queue him up, he'll be prepared to show it.
Good.
That'll be good. My neighbor across the street was good friends with him for years and had worked with him. And she was sorry to hear of his passing. And I clued her in onto the VMNH meeting channel on YouTube. And if she and some of her other former colleagues were interested in tuning in at the beginning of the full board meeting, they could, hear a little bit about him too. So that's good.
That's all I had. So I guess our next agenda item is to hear from Jennifer, treasurer's report.
All right, so everyone should have a copy of the treasurer's report. We'll go over it with the full board tomorrow. But just taking a look at it, we received full funding from both Martinsville City and Henry County. So we've gotten that funding in. So that's why we're at 100% of year to date on those receipts. And then we also received additional federal funds from the Coronavirus Relief Fund. That was about $12,503. So that went to offset expenses for the period March 1st, 2020 through December 30th, 2020. So that's pretty much it on revenues. Going towards expenses. So the agency contractual services are going to increase drastically in the for fiscal year 21. I guess there's some projects that will wrap up as we close fiscal year 21 and begin fiscal year 22. So I guess, and these are things I guess that we're sort of in because, we're a state agency, so to speak. So payroll and human resource management, we're transitioning all the payroll services from the Payroll Service Bureau to PeopleSoft. And then the state mandated human capital management project will replace the processes from 1984. So I guess we're moving into the next to the next technology. And there were also 2 audits were performed at the beginning of fiscal year 21. The general accounting audit hasn't been billed, but the VITA audit has. It was $45,671, which was about $15,000 more than what was originally quoted. So that's pretty much it as far as, you know, any anomalies or that sort of thing that are on the treasurer's report with respect to revenues and operating expenses. Does anybody have any questions or?
I noticed the equipment budget is out too. Is that related to this contractual services?
No, what that really, in essence, boils down to, we shrunk the amount of money that we are going to apply towards utilities because we've been saving quite a lot, not being open to the public and so forth. And so we've gone ahead and given the green light to some wish list projects, particularly from the curators. So you'll hear a report through Art tomorrow about the new VMH molecular lab is coming along. So we've made some major purchases. I can't really speak to the flavor of that equipment. I know I communicated with you all about the ultra cold freezer and so forth. And there are a few other bits of equipment that the curators requested pertaining to a STEM lab that they're going to convert the old distance learning lab into, which ties in actually with Hayden's work, in which he's going to be kicking in some money. So bottom line is we're moving a little bit of funding around here and there to strategically take care of long-term visions now that our operations are kind of, at least the public operations are heavily reduced.
So is a substantial amount of the purchases for the lab coming from savings from utilities, or is it just lots of different things?
Well, it actually is a number of different things that we would normally spend on a regular year. Like, for instance, we've been averaging about $10,000 or $12,000 a year on elevator maintenance. But of course, we are right now in the process of replacing the entire elevator, so we won't be spending anything on that. That's one example of the piecemeal movement of funds to support future programmatic activities, or in this case, research-related activities. But the utilities, I don't recall I think we were looking at staring at an estimated 20% savings over last year just because of reduced operation. Right now, today, everything's dark.
Right.
So right now we're running at 51% of our budget in utilities.
Yeah, and that's because of the reduction. So Jonathan has moved some funds around. Otherwise, if we didn't move those funds around, we'd be at something like 40% or 45%.
Okay. Yeah, it's just that 445 jumped out at me, the 445%.
Yeah, it does.
But it's really a small number, isn't it? It's I realize it's just maybe 15 grand or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Jennifer? By the way, I attended the foundation board meeting earlier at noon, and it looks like their revenues are good too. They've gotten pretty good donations to the Discovery Fund, I noticed, in the last quarter. So obviously that's kind of the time when people are paying attention to that, but it seems like we've benefited from people's largesse here in the last quarter or so with regard to the Discovery Fund.
And I recognize the names who are associated with the Discovery Fund. These are mainly long-term supporters. We don't see a lot of new ones, obviously, right now, though we did get out of the blue, in a way, we got $1,000 from the Elster Foundation, which is out of Charlotte, North Carolina, I believe. I don't know what the connection was back in 2005 or so, but an application was made to them, and the Paleontology Prep Lab bears their name, so they donated $50,000 to the capital campaign. So a few years ago, I asked Gwen Mason from Tim Kaine's office to write a letter of support to the Elster Foundation to consider coming back and funding us again. So there were a few anomalies that came up like that. So, and the Elster Foundation, they provided $1,000 for operation. We'd never heard from them after the request was sent in. That was, like I said, about 3 years ago or so. But anyway, yeah, but I think the foundation has done quite well and really won't be accruing much in the way of expense outside of 50% of Charlotte's salary, which they're well positioned to pay. They've also paid off the Acrocanthosaurus, so that will no longer be an expense for them. And lastly, we will be holding Thomas Jefferson Awards, but on a greatly reduced scale. There'll be a few people here in the Hall of Ancient Life. We got Dr. Mark Crabtree, who's former vice chairman of the board and a longtime supporter of the museum, former mayor of Martinsville and so forth. He's going to be delivering the keynote address. So it'll be a scaled down thing, but no expenses. So that, and when you think of things like the gala, we're not going to have an in-person gala. We're not even really going to truly have a gala. In substitution for that, the staff are kind of concocting a month-long celebration in April to remind people of what they have donated to in the past and how we've used that money. And so we'll have various online activities and so forth, and see if we can generate a little bit of a combination membership drive and a funding drive. Incidentally, our numbers kind of track a lot of other museums we've been following in the industry, that our membership is probably down to about 60% of what our past capacity was. And we do see that's kind of falls in line with what we're seeing at other museums. Some are even much worse. We find that the people who are long-term supporters have stuck with museums, including ours, and those that are more transactional in nature that get memberships to get discounted or free admission to that museum or other museums as well, such as the reciprocity agreement with Aztec. Those folks have dropped off, but we fully expect to get them back when people are traveling again.
I'm impressed that the city and the county stepped up with their normal contribution. I thought the city was on the verge of, what do they call it? Dissolving or something.
What is that called? I've only read it 1,000 times since I've been here, but
Yeah.
reverting to a town.
Reverting, yeah.
Yeah, it depends who you talk to. Some people say that there is funding around, might not be enough to really prevent future reversion, but for the time being, that it's not like they're going to break in half at the moment. The city does see us as a real asset. I mean, everyone on city council, the people in state government, such as the city manager, city treasurer, city lawyer, so forth, they see what we bring to the table. I am still surprised that they provided. County's doing much better than the city. County's still doing okay in terms of their revenues and so forth. So I wasn't terribly surprised they gave full funding. City, on the other hand, yeah, I thought that was pretty nice of them.
And don't they earmark those funds for education? Is that right?
Yes, that goes to right now. Both of those pots of money combined together provide Terry Robinson's support. So Christie's current employee.
Okay. Well, I've gotten us a little off agenda, but I think our next thing to hear from is Joe and his report.
Yeah, I think you get the gist of what's going on. And Tom heard this earlier. If you came to the museum today and you see all the gallery lights off and the exhibit electronics off, it's a bit of an illusion because there's been a ton of activity going on. And, I'll save the full report for the full board meeting, but there's a couple of things that I really think bears bringing up. Within research, the board, of course, had formed the University Partners Ad Hoc Committee, and we kind of have a bit of an example ongoing naturally that I think can form a good model to supplement the work being done by that committee formed through the board and the foundation board. So we partnered with Ray Bernor, who's a research associate from Howard University, and it's through the NSF Futures program. And what it is that Adam Pritchard and Nancy Moncrief are going to be working, assuming the grant is successful, they're going to be working in conjunction with seven university partners who are going to create not just databases of selected collections with the collecting data and so forth, but they're going to be integrating measurements, morphological measurements that can be 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional into an overall shared database that will be available globally. So hopefully, Art, you'll be hearing much more about that tomorrow morning. Due to VMNH would be about $340,000, including a chunk of money that would go towards essentially the broader impacts that Christie would take care of, which right now the way they have it earmarked would be for outreach, distance learning, and online resources that is based upon the work done through this work. So Christie's identified a lot of SOLs that can be supported by using this database. So the proposal is due next month. So, well, I think it's rolling, but they've set a goal of being submitted next month. So we're going there. In exhibits, we put a couple of new ones up, butterflies, and added the trout to the trout tank to the Wild Watersheds exhibit. However, we're also planning a flight exhibit, and I've challenged the foundation to come up with corporate partners. The Science of Flight exhibit, I don't have a hard date that will open that. That's primarily because CATS never really got its fair share. It was opened and then a month later we closed. So we want to make sure that's up for a while before we swap it out. But flight, we want to make modular so we can travel it. We plan to do everything from kind of an engineering standpoint, where we might partner with Blue Ridge Regional Airport. We have one of the foundation board members making a connection there, and Len Poulin is trying to get us connections to Dynamic Aviation out of Bridgewater, Virginia. Kind of an intriguing operation there. But nonetheless, I think this is a good model of future work that the foundation could do to find corporate partners that have alignment of their mission and our exhibits or education programs. In capital projects, the elevator's going fine. The Douglas roof replacement is going fine. Gene S. Adams Education Pavilion, we're basically sitting on the RFP for contractors. We've done everything on our end. Jonathan seems to think it's going to be very soon that General Services will basically greenlight us so we can get to work on that. And the timing will be good. There's only so much that can be done in the wintertime anyway. I've already given the update on VM&H Waynesboro. None of you are on the education committee, but you'll be hearing a report tomorrow. So Christy's been doing really well. Online Science and Education Academy, that's been very popular. She's been attempting to connect with institutions that have CARES Act money, such as YMCAs, that are looking for distance learning programming for their students that they work with. I think Ryan will be covering a Boxley grant, Boxley Materials, that would provide $10,000 for distance learning programming in the Roanoke area. So despite the slowdown in on-site and off-site outreach, Christy and her small team have done quite a bit of work. The Wayne Lecture Series has gone very well. We just had a talk Tuesday night, yeah.
Yep.
And that was Jim Beard as curator emeritus talking about the geology of the Shenandoah Valley. Very well received. There were actually people in the audience. We actually broadcast it from here. I can't remember why we chose that route this time rather than doing it at the Wayne Theater, but we did. The connection, we had a few, just kind of communication challenges, but it was our first time doing it. Seemed to be pretty well received. Last I peeked, we had about 120 online participants. So it's certainly been holding its own. So I would just say overall that we're in pretty good shape, a lot better shape than you would hope following the problems associated with the pandemic. I think the rest of the year should go smooth. I don't anticipate any issues. And I think we've got some real work to do with the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee upcoming with a little more advocacy associated with this movement of money. We're also talking about the next set of focus groups that'll be centered around the exhibits, in particular, the geology and hydrology exhibits. So we should be hearing more about that at the next board meeting. And so, yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that things have gone as well as they have. Art, I really hope the team speaks solidly of Jackson Means and his work in the Mariapod collection. Just to refresh memories, Jackson, with Jim's retirement and us not wanting to undergo a full curator search during a pandemic, we decided to postpone that, but in the meantime, hire Jackson on, I think it was a 2-year basis. So he's been doing excellent work, and they'll give you the appropriate numbers tomorrow, Art, but the number of genera and number of species just in the Mariapod collection that are currently undescribed to science is just overwhelming. I mean, it's an incredible amount of work. So, yeah, I'm pretty pleased with where we sit right now. I just hosted the Association for Science Museum Directors annual conference. It was the first and hopefully only virtual version of that, and talking to some of my colleagues, I mean, they had to eliminate 80% of their staff. Their revenues are just, in bad shape. However, those that are like us who either have a strong endowment or receive a state appropriation, it seems pretty universal that state governments stepped up and took care of their agencies. Yeah, sometimes it can be a real frustration being a part of any kind of governmental system. But on the other hand, during this pandemic, here in hindsight, it's been a real asset.
Good.
One
And
question, Joe, I noticed you mentioned the new website and
Yes.
that's added an online presence. Do you have, first of all, when was that officially released? I remember it actually being available, I think before our last board meeting.
Yeah,
It
it's
might have
been
been
online for a few
Okay.
months now.
So this was just in
And
the quarter, like that final quarter of our calendar year last year.
yes, that is true. We wanted to get that online for the online purchasing around Christmas.
Right. But do we know whether that has actually brought more traffic? Do we have any?
Frankly said, it doesn't really look like it. It has certainly made things smoother.
Yeah.
There are people who are making use of the capabilities, and I really need Ryan or Diane to talk about the fine details of it. But basically, as you all know, we use the Razor's Edge or Blackbaud fundraising software.
Yeah.
But it also, that software has the capacity to help you run special events, to do solicitations, and a lot of other things. And like most institutions, we were probably using 15% of its capability. But now that it's fully integrated, and I put that in air quotes because I don't really know what that means, but basically it's integrated into the website. So that way we can do mailings, we can do solicitations, we can do them electronically, we can link that back to our printer and do a traditional mailing. And it's so much easier to update individual donor activity with this. So it's really added a new kind of dimension to Ryan's work and his work and Charlotte Harder's work with the foundation. So
I don't know if we'd be ready to do it tomorrow, but I wonder if it wouldn't help the board to have a little tour of the website at some point.
yeah, I'll bring it up. Zach's online right now. He's probably the one that is most familiar with the website. So he and Ryan can certainly host that.
Yeah, I'm maybe not tomorrow, but maybe we could think about doing that for May. I shared with Christy, I think it's a while ago now, a website that I ran across that looked really good at promoting distance learning programs.
Okay.
And I don't know whether there's an opportunity to, mimic. It's always great to copy good examples, but to mimic what they had. It was very visual, and I think it was very intuitive the way it was laid out. And I don't know whether there's an opportunity to use that information in our organizing our website. It sounds like she's doing well already, but I'm just saying that maybe there's a way to boost even more our delivery online.
Every tool helps. And if you could share that with me, I would like to see it, because what I find is most people don't understand. You have to literally explain it to them. When you talk to them about what a distance learning program is, frankly said, even if you say we do outreach, people have their own preconceived ideas as to what that means. So if they're doing it effectively, certainly I would love to borrow their ideas.
I might have copied you, but I'll dig it up again and send it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions for Joe and his executive director's report?
Nope.
All right, I think that brings us to old business. One thing I wanted to bring up was our diversity statistics. So we talked a little bit about this, I think, at our last board meeting, and I noticed that in the advancement report, there are some summaries there of the diversity, both of our audience, the people that are coming to visit, the school programs that we bring in, the diversity of our staff, and the diversity of our boards. So I think that's a good thing to keep looking at. And I hope when Ryan presents the advancement report, he'll talk a little bit about those numbers. I don't have anything else for old business. I did want to talk a little bit about processes for nominations. Maybe this is new business. With Roberto's help, he tried to kind of put together how we go through nominating our officers. And I think it's been kind of, it's written in the bylaws a little bit, but maybe it's been unclear to some of the newer board members how they can get a role on the executive committee or on, other committees. And so I think and maybe Lisa's going to share with us a one pager on that nominations process. Beyond that, I also wanted to share with you that at the foundation board meeting earlier today at noon, they're looking for new board members. And they have a nominations form that we should probably send out to our trustees, because if there are folks that would be good to serve on the foundation board, we can nominate them. And, I think that would be a valuable service to the foundation board.
Right now, there are at least two, just off the top of my head, that I can think of, former board members that now serve on the foundation. And it's a pretty good model because they understand the nuts and bolts of what's going on.
Do we have anybody rolling off our board this summer?
I've got to double check on that, Tom. I don't think so.
Okay.
But I need to double check. And if I do see that with the term limits that we're going to lose another person, I'll let you know. That said, since we're on the topic, I have reached out to Office of Appointments regarding the longstanding vacancy we had, but also about Barry. And it's probably because of the General Assembly session. I just haven't heard anything back. I did get a nice note back from Fran regarding Barry's passing, but if I continue to run into a roadblock, I might ask her to see if she can't grease the skids.
Yeah, we have 2 openings on our board.
Yeah, you have 13.
It'd be nice to fill those.
Tom, back in your comment about committees and people maybe not understanding how they can get on committees, as far as I understand it, it's just a matter of people saying, I'm interested in participating. And to that end, if I have a wit about me tomorrow, at least for my little bit, research and collections, I can certainly extend an invitation to interested trustees if they'd like to participate in that. Just, give me a shout and basically you're in. So I would think the other chairs could certainly do that when they have give their reports tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and I might reinforce that too. As written in our bylaws, it's the role of the chair to appoint the committee members. But certainly, I've always been open to anybody who says, yeah, I want to go on that committee, and just say, okay, you're on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know where, our next chair will be on that, but I would think, given that if people express an interest, that probably means they're going to do a good job. And so I think I'll try to say something a little bit about that.
Well, we can certainly follow the bylaws too, and simply say, that here are the standing committees, and if anybody's interested in serving in any of these, please speak to the chair, and we'll make it happen.
Right. Yeah. All right. Any other new business?
I've got just one minor detail, Tom.
Yeah, Joe.
Christy pointed out an error that we didn't catch in producing the minutes for the full board meeting tomorrow. So you might want to, when you approve the full board meeting minutes from last meeting, might just bring it up. It basically says in the education report that Christy or the education department received CARES Act funding in support of education programs. But that was a little off. I think it was just a misunderstanding. It was actually Cord bringing up the idea that they were anticipating receiving CARES Act funds for educational programming that could potentially flow into Christie's program. To my knowledge, that hasn't happened yet, but just want to make sure that was clear.
Well, one of us whoever it is informed on the details. Tom can certainly ask if there's any discussion or amendments to the minutes, and that would be the time to bring it up, and then we could just go from there.
Yes. So Christy was a little nervous about that. So
to be clear, I think Cord was explaining that his organization might be getting CARES funds that would trickle to Christy, or is that what you're saying?
In similar programs, yes.
And similar programs. Okay. So it was recorded in the minutes as if the museum was getting that money.
Yeah, I think the staffer I had taking minutes, perhaps just misunderstood, and we just didn't catch it.
Okay. All right, I'll try to bring that out.
And I can help with that too.
Okay, when we're approving minutes.
Sure.
I'm just making some notes to myself. Anything else? Any announcements?
Not for me.
Okay, well, I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning, Art, and the RNC committee meeting.
Why are we meeting before 9?
Isn't that bright and early?
We've had a couple of 8:30 meetings and had to roll out of bed in Martinsville in time to make that. But
Right. Yeah,
Right.
and Joe, is the foundations committee meeting, or I'm sorry, facilities committee meeting in the morning?
Yeah, I called it. The problem is, of course, is that it's a small committee. Lisa also serves on research and collections. I haven't heard what she's going to do. So perhaps it'll just be some staff with Cord and who am I missing?
Me,
Yeah,
I'm on
Jennifer.
facilities.
Yes. Yeah. So if you'd like to join us, there's nothing earth shattering. In fact, Jennifer, you're going to be hearing the most important part would be from VMNH Waynesboro. But you're welcome to join us. Even
Okay.
if you want it, would you rather, well, I don't want to change the time at this late date. So yeah. So
Well, the one thing, of course, we need to think about is who may take the lead on that committee going forward.
Yeah, because you got Barry on that one, and then he's
Yeah, he's chair.
yeah.
He's chair.
So then it's Cord and Lisa, but Cord is going to be at education, right? And then Lisa's going to be at research and collections.
Yeah.
Education actually just finished up right before this meeting began.
Oh, okay. So
So
Cord will be
Oh, okay.
available.
they got together and shifted it, and so Cord should be available.
Okay. Well, maybe you could have a short discussion about it if somebody in that group would be willing to chair going forward.
Okay. All right. I'll
All right.
bring my Chinese handcuffs or whatever you're supposed to leverage somebody with.
Yeah. And I'll extend the invitation to anybody that wants to join the facilities committee. And I might have an interest in doing that once I roll out of this position. So.
Okay.
All right, everybody. We are adjourned.
all right. See
All
you in the
right.
morning.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right.